Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Latonya Summers. Thank you so much for being here with me today as I talk to you about keeping your pen to paper, finding time to write in academia. First, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about me, not necessarily because I want to qualify myself for giving this talk, but I just think it's important to build relationship as well as let you know who it is that's giving you this information. So, firstly, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, born and raised, never been out of South of Charlotte before until I came to Jacksonville, Florida, 3 years ago to teach here at Jacksonville University, where I currently am. My parents told me that I wrote my first novel when I was 6 years old. I remember writing my first novel at 10, and it was called Snowdrift, about a Black girl wanting to be white. I have had lots of racial identity development issues, which is no wonder why, as an adult woman, most of my research and what I write about and what I teach about in the classroom is about racial identity development and multiculturalism and counseling and supervision. Super funny. But anyway, I just thought I'd tell you, I've been writing since I was a child. I also remembered as I thought about what I would tell you about me is that I used to be a stand up comedian, come from a long line of funny people, but my college friends dared me to enter a pageant. And so on a double dog dare, I'm a Leo. You don't back down from challenges, but on a double dog dare, I entered a pageant in college and realized I didn't have any talent. And so I did stand up comedy as my talent. I did not win the pageant, but that led me to do comedy for years. And it's how I paid my way through school. I almost got to Def Comedy Jam, but chickened out. I did perform with Small Fry, Bruce, Chocolate, and some other Def Comedy Jam comedians, but I chickened out. I could have been famous today had I continued to do stand up comedy. But I told you that because I also had to write my jokes. We'll get to that a little later, but one of my biggest hindrances to writing, one thing that kept me from writing in academia for so long is I didn't think I had anything worthwhile to say or to publish. We'll talk a little bit about that later. I'm also a former mental health practitioner where I was doing direct services. I just got licensed here in Florida, so I can't wait to get back to practicing. But I'm thinking, listen, we've been writing progress notes and treatment plans and discharge plans, so we know how to write. If your hindrance is sometimes you don't know what to write. I'm also a former novelist. So that picture that you see there called Good to Me is a very first novel that I published with Warner Books of New York. So that was an amazing experience. I got to travel the country to promote the book and do book talks. It was super amazing. And then I became acquainted personally with the term of starving artist. Just because I was famous didn't mean that I was rich. So took me back to the mental health profession, which I left for a year because I thought I was going to be rich and famous. But anyway, now I'm an academician here at Jacksonville University, where I'm training up the next generation of counselors and therapists who are culturally competent. I'm super proud of the work that I do here at Jacksonville University and for our profession. I'm also an editorial board member of the Journal of Equity and Behavioral Health Therapy, which is a brand new journal. So I hope that you'll look it up and I hope that you will write for us. But some of the experience that I'll talk to you today comes from that particular position. I also founded the Black Mental Health Symposium, which is an annual conference that equips all mental health practitioners and advocates with culturally specific skills so that we all can work together in improving mental wellness in Black communities. This symposium happened September the 9th and 10th this year. It's virtual and it's the 6th annual conference. I'm so super proud of that work. It is amazing. Another thing about writing is I have a textbook coming out along with my co-editor, Dr. Lotus Nelson from Southern New Hampshire University. It's coming out in 2022 and it's about multicultural counseling. See, I told you all my work was about racial identity development and multicultural counseling. But that particular book is called Multicultural Counseling, Responding with Cultural Humility, Empathy, and Advocacy. So I'm super proud of that work as well. And I'm super blessed and proud to be a wife and a mom of 6 children. So whatever sympathy you have for me for being a mom of 6 kids, I receive all of that. And so I also include that here to say, just like everyone else, I'm super busy. We're all under a pandemic, and it's like, who has time to write? Which is why I'm here with you today to talk about how to find time to write in academia. So, again, the topic of this, and more specifically, is keeping your pen to paper, but 5 ways to find time to write in academia. I remember, let me go back to the slide. I remember getting into academia 3 years ago and totally thinking, those first few months, oh, this is easy. My telephone wasn't ringing off the hook. My emails were trickling in. I was a new faculty member. I longed for meetings because I needed something to do outside of teaching. I was teaching a couple of days a week, teaching 2 to 3 classes. And I just thought, oh, I can do this all day. And so as meetings came and opportunities came to work in the community and to work to do university service and all these things, I was inviting them like, yes, yes, fill up my calendar, fill up my calendar. And then when the calendar got full, when I was no longer new, maybe 6 to 12 months, when people started hearing about me and hearing about my work, writing became more difficult. I remember the first month I got here in August. Well, I had a publication, an article that I was able to write in that first month because I wasn't busy. An article that I sent to the Journal of Multicultural Counseling and Development. I had time to write when I first got there, right? Because I was a new faculty member with not much to do. But as the opportunities came and the meetings and the research and the teaching and I don't know, the grading, can we talk about the grading? But the grading and all of that stuff came, my writing kind of went to the back burner. I thought, I'll get to it tomorrow. Oh, and then the emails. I mean, yeah, you just spend time just checking emails and responding and being responsive to not only your students, but your faculty members, university. Oh my goodness. But anyway, my writing got to the back burner and I thought, Latonya, tenure and promotion seems like a long way off, right? That 5 to 6 years out seems like a long way off. But because publishing takes time, I needed to be mindful of it. And so I said, you got to get your writing self together, sister, and do some things to tweak some things so that you don't fall behind. All right. So let me share these 5 things with you. Number one is you've got to say no. Now, I am not a say no person. I've always been a say yes person. I've always been the kind of person of how can I help others? How can I make the world a better place? I like that when people see me, they don't sigh like, oh Lord, here she comes. But it's really this breath of fresh air that they take when they see me. I've always had that kind of image of myself and have worked hard to make sure that's how people receive me. But that's a lot of work. Anyway, that's a whole nother lecture. Getting back to him, here's one way in which I learned to say no. And it comes from Dr. Donna Ford, who does mentoring for like Black academicians. So look her up. She's absolutely amazing. And one of the things she helped me do was develop a research schema. And this research schema, I wish I could I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you what my research schema looks like since I'm in my office and it is here. But my research schema is this thing here. Can you see this board behind me? In the middle, you'll see here that my academic core purpose, the reason I'm doing this is to improve mental wellness in Black communities. And then you see where things are branched off. So you'll see that I like my research is about culturally specific professional development. You can't see that well, but then you see culturally relevant pedagogy here. And then you see client and clinician experiences, and then equity-based macro level policies. So I've got my center, and then I've got the 4 ways in which I do that. And then down here, you'll see the methodologies that I use, which is phenomenological, quantitative concept mapping. And then my theoretical frameworks is feminism, critical race, and self-efficacy. All right. Let me see if I can get a better shot at that. Okay, that's what that is. Anyway, Dr. Ford just encouraged her mentees to have a research schema. And as opportunities and things come in, I get to say no if they're not in my wheelhouse. if they are not in my research schema, if it doesn't fit my core academic purpose, I say no. So it's really the thing that helps me stay grounded. Otherwise, because I'm a yes person, I say yes to lots of things. I like to be needed. I like to be wanted. I like to be asked to do things. But with that research schema, if it's about, I don't know, I get invitations to talk about different things. But this research schema helps me to say no, because at the end of the day, if it's not about improving Black mental wellness, or if it's not about, pretty much if it's not about improving Black mental wellness, my answer is no. Let's see, the second thing that helps me to say no is to limit social media, TV, email, phone, and all of those kinds of things. And it doesn't mean that I say no to them forever. What I've learned to do is to use them as a reward. My natural inclination, because I do so much, is I just want to go home and veg out. I don't want to talk. I just want to get on social media or watch TV. I want to do what I just want to do something mindless. But that takes away from my writing time, right? Doing so much and then coming home or going, I like to get lunch and sit out in parking lots and eat and people watch. Total waste of time, but it's self-care for me. So anyway, instead of saying no to those things altogether, I use them as a reward. Like, hey, Latonya, you write this paragraph, then you can, get on social media. Or you know what, if you at least start this article or finish this article wherever I am in the process, then you know what, you can binge watch something on Netflix. All right, so just totally using those things that I like to do that are mindless as rewards rather than procrastination techniques or tactics. All right, email is a thing that gets sucked in. I like to be really responsive, right? That personality of being a people pleaser. I like to be really responsive, but I'll get through my emails, I'll feel really good about responding, and then people respond, which means now I got to respond again. Oh my God, it's a total time waster. And it's an illusion for me to think, Latonya, you want to be so responsive. That's how you get opportunities, right? Early bird catches the worm. Whatever. But what I'll do is I schedule my emails. I know that at 9 o'clock when I get to my desk, I do emails and then I do other work. I don't readily respond to things outside of 9. And then I may come back at 12 and respond to emails. And then I may come back at the end of my workday. But being more strategic about how you answer your emails is totally, totally helpful. I'm not a phone person anyway, praise the Lord. So that's another role I forgot to tell you about in the beginning. I'm also a Baptist minister, so you might hear amen slip out or praise the Lord. You will hear that slip out as well. So for those of you who identify with that, yay. And for those of you who don't, just chew the meat and spit out the bones. All right. Saying no to invitations to speak, teach, and lecture. I've already said this before when I talked about my research schema. When you know what your core academic purpose or even your spiritual purpose or your personal purpose, the whole reason that you got into academia or whatever, only accept invitations that meet that core purpose, right? Otherwise, when you're accepting just any opportunity, it requires you to have to do more research, more prep, and that's just taking away from that's taken away from time that you could be taking care of yourself or doing your writing. So don't be afraid that you're going to miss something big or that you're going to mess up when you say no. That's the thing that would keep me saying yes, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to miss something. Or this might lead me to sit to Oprah's couch. Well, girl, you've been in this profession 24 years and ain't got to Oprah's couch yet. Not saying it won't happen, but you didn't get there saying yes. So saying no ain't gonna hurt. All right. Know when to say yes, right? Like we can't say no to everything. So know when to say yes. Does it meet your academic purpose is a question that I ask myself, that I would encourage you to ask yourself. Is the trade-off good? Listen, you know how much free and pro bono work I've done as far as free talks and free lecture, just free. And that's not the only trade-off, but I will say that it requires prep. I got to put together a PowerPoint. I might have to put images in the PowerPoint. There are so many things that we do. That time adds up. And if I'm doing all of that to come and give a free talk with no reward to me, it's just not a good trade-off. And the answer is just no. So consider that when you're considering whether to accept an opportunity or not. And then can you do it without too much prep? Is it in your wheelhouse? When it's in your wheelhouse, you know it like the back of your hand. You'll just have to tweak your PowerPoints, might have to update a few things, that kind of thing, but that doesn't cost you much. You can definitely say yes to that. But if it's going to require you, you got to read some articles and a couple of books, talk to a couple of folks. No, ma'am, no, sir. That's just going to be too much. And then will it lead to something greater, like this opportunity that someone is asking you to do? Ask questions about what the reward is going to be for you. That's not selfish at all. I think it's just smart. So asking what it might lead to, and then you considering what it might lead to. So, just consider all of those things when you're looking to say yes or no to an invitation. And then what does your gut say? That's supposed to say, what does your gut say? It says it's supposed to say your. Our bodies, when you're in tune with it, it takes care of itself. And there have been opportunities where people have asked me to do something. With my mouth, I've said no. With my mouth, I've said yes. With my head, and my gut is kicking me like, you don't want to do that. You don't need to do that. But listening to my gut has never steered me wrong. So I encourage you to do that when you're considering what opportunities to take. So say no and know when to say yes. And then secondly, I talked about this a little bit before, like know what to write. These are all of the excuses that I've used in the past. Like, I don't have anything to say. I don't know what to write. And nobody wants to read or hear about what I think is important, or that will never get published. And then as I'm on CessNet and I see people going back and forth, I'm like, man, sometimes we tear each other up on CessNet. I can't imagine what someone will do if I put my work out there and get published. I sometimes think of the backlash or the criticism, especially with my work being so race specific. So those are things that have kept me out of writing. But just as you mature chronologically with age and with experience, you will also mature in the academic profession and in the counseling profession, where you just don't care anymore. It's like I need to be, for those of you who are going up for tenure, or on that tenure track trajectory. It's like, honey, I need to get published. I need to say something. And I do want to encourage you that you do have something to say. Right now, we're living under a freaking pandemic. There's plenty to say about living under a pandemic, what the implications are, what are the future what's the future fallout of living under a pandemic? There's plenty to write about. People do want to hear about that. It's going to be relevant in 2025 and 2030 and so on and so forth for folks who didn't experience the pandemic. So don't think that if you're not doing it now while under the pandemic, it's not going to be relevant later. It is. All right. Here are opportunities for writing. Like sometimes you don't think you know what to write or you don't have anything to say, but here's where I found gold mines for my writing. One, the lectures in the classroom. We have to prep for what we're going to say in those classrooms. That prepping is actually the beginning of your research. The beginning of your lit reviews, right? The beginning of a study or an article. So what you're doing in the classroom, man, especially if you're doing revolutionary stuff, you're changing syllabi, you're incorporating things that you don't know if other people are incorporating. Like in my social and cultural foundations course, some of you might call it like a multicultural counseling course. I use poverty simulations. I've turned my whole classroom into a 5-mile radius of the hood and had my students to get out of the hood without becoming pregnant, using drugs, or going to jail. So some of those revolutionary, innovative, creative things that you're doing in the classroom, write about that stuff. I was going to say, write about that crap, but write about that stuff, right? We want to hear it. Help us to become better educators when we're teaching specific classes. All right, conference presentations. The work that you're doing to prepare conference presentations is fodder. Okay, anyway, I don't even know if that's the right word to use there, but I want to say that's much meat for your writing, whether it's a conceptual piece or a research empirical based piece. But what you're presenting at conferences, write about those things. So after your conference, give yourself time to rest and then write it. Like, don't give yourself too much time, because then you're presenting at the next conference and they all add up, right? These works that you've not been able to get to. Things you're curious about. I tell you, there are lots of things that I'm curious about. And what I'll do is keep a file. I'll write down, hey, I want to know if this might be the reason Black folks experience hypertension or kidney disease or obesity more than our white counterparts or white residents where we live. Could it be because could it be that it's race-based? So I'll just make a note that I need to come back to that. Another thing that I'm curious about is, hey, I love Adlerian theory and inferiority complex, but does it consider privilege, power, and oppression? Right? Okay, so all those things, I'll just make a note of it. And then I know that in my pipeline, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, those are things that I can go back to, right? Instead of thinking, I need to write something. What am I going to write? Well, I've already kept a little file of things that I'm curious about. So that's lots of meat for you, because we are a curious people. Your dissertation, have you gotten anything published from that dissertation yet? I don't care if it was 10, 20 years ago, or if it was 2 years ago, but that dissertation contains some meat. Just update it, get rid of all the seminal works, because publications, journals are not taking work. They don't care about scholarly work from 1960 and all the stuff we had to do in our dissertation, right? Including those seminal works. They don't care nothing about that. So update it with works that have been done within the past 10 years, no later, definitely than 15 or 20 years, but get something out of your dissertation. That's a great place to start if you feel like you don't have anything else to say outside of that. A book you've read, a TV show you've watched, or something that you've read online. Hey, stop Asian hate right now. Could you write about that? Could you partner with someone to write about that? What's your experience with the divide between Black and Asian Americans, or the how can we pull the two together to stop Asian hate, or to make improvements in Black Lives Matter? All of that, right, is stuff that we could be writing about and doing research about. So you do have something to say. We do want to hear about it, and it is important. Your voice matters. Listen, oh my goodness. Culturally, I've been raised by lots of women who probably were scorned by men. I don't know. But the message that I got directly and indirectly is, Latonya, if you want something done and you want it done well, honey, you got to do it yourself. That's how I was raised, and that's how I work. But there's an African proverb that, since getting into the doctoral program and being in academia, I found the value of it. And it's, if you want to go fast, travel alone. But if you want to go far, travel with others. I am recognizing that as I get older, wiser, and more mature, I want to use my body less and my mind more. Pretty much, I want to work smarter and not harder. And one of the best things I could have done, I just started like 2 years ago, to revolutionize my writing, is to write with other people. It has totally been a game changer and increased my publications by writing with colleagues, or finding people in the profession who do work similar to my own, has been a game changer. First of all, if you don't already know this, I want you to know that journal writing and academic and scholarly writing is freaking formulaic. Like grant writing, I used to do grant writing when I was a novelist. It's one of the ways I sent myself across the country, is getting grants to go and promote my book. Well, same thing here with academic writing and journaling. It's a freaking formula. So you learn the formula by taking a look at grants. That's a whole nother lecture. This one is about academic writing. Know your journals. Because I write multicultural issues, the journals that I go to generally are the Journal of Multicultural Counseling and Development, or the journal that I'm an editorial board member of, the Journal of Equity for Behavioral Health Therapy. I know which journals accept the work that I write. And because I know those journals, I know the formula. So whatever your writing is, know the journals for that writing and learn the formula. It's an abstract, it's an introduction with your lit review, and then it is your methods section, and then it's your findings, and then it's your limitations and future research and your conclusion. I swear, it's daunting when you don't know the sections, but when you know the sections and say, girl, I know you can write 8 sections. I know you can break this thing down in 8 sections if you're writing alone. But if you're writing with people, honey, listen, which sections are you best at writing? I'm the master of the methodology section. I'm the master of the findings and the discussion sections, things like that. And then divvy up those sections. You'll walk away with just 2 or 3 sections, depending on how many people you're writing with. And then you set deadlines. Hey, let's give 2 weeks to do our blah, 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 and then 2 weeks to have a draft, and then 2 weeks to edit it, and then we're gonna hit submit. So set your deadlines and make sure you've got enough time to be able to edit. And then when it comes back as a revise and a resubmit, you may have 30 days to get it in, to get it back in, depending on the publisher, but make sure you have time for that edit and that rewrite, and then hit publish. But working with others, you definitely go much further than you can when you're writing alone. That has definitely been my experience. Because I'm culturally a loner, one of the ways, the very first way that I started this is a colleague of mine went to a conference, and there she went to a section, someone's breakout session that was doing work on broaching race and culture. Well, that's also my work. So my colleague hooked me up with that speaker, and me and that speaker, we've published, at least we've gotten 1 work published. But we always look for opportunities to continue to work together again. So I didn't even do that. Someone else did it for me, but that might be a way for you to find writing partners, is if you go to conference and someone's presenting similar work, shoot, link up. It makes it even easier because you're doing the same work. So I want to give that to you as well. And then I have 2 more tips. This one is creating a pipeline. And I spoke about that earlier by saying, hey, I keep a file of my ideas, things that I'm curious about. I write them down so that when I come to write, I'm not having to think of what I can write. I already have a file that I can refer to. Sometimes because publishing takes a long time, like you submit your article. Listen, I got an article at a particular journal I am not going to call out. It's been 23 months and 2 revise and resubmits, and I'm still waiting to hear if they're going to publish this or if they're going to deny it. And I don't know which way it's going to go, but it's been 23 months, almost 2 freaking years, and I'm still waiting. So if you're up against tenure and your tenure is 5 years, and this journal, this publication has taken 2 years, we don't have that kind of time, ma'am or sir. We're gonna have to create a pipeline of work. And a pipeline of work means this is work that I am completing, work that I'm beginning, and then work that I need to get to. So this work may have fallen on the back burner for whatever reason. It may be my curious file, that work that I can start or take a look at, right? So there's this pipeline. I don't know, in the counseling profession, if you're a practitioner, you know, you've got existing clients, new clients, and clients that you don't want to fall through the crack. They've gotten to the back burner some kind of way. Or in academia, we have an existing cohort, we have a new cohort, and we have a cohort coming in. So we're used to working in pipelines. You just now have to create one for your writing. I hope that makes sense, right? Work that you're already working on, that you might be near completing. You need to also be beginning something. And then you have this pile of things, or you have this work that you could get to and that you need to get to. All right. And then we always think, oh, I'm going to write tomorrow. And then those tomorrows turn into weeks and months and sometimes years. But time will not magically appear for you to write. Like, it just doesn't. You will never be inspired to write. This inspiration doesn't come. You actually have to. One of the things that I found best is that I schedule my writing. I don't work on Fridays. I use Fridays as my day for self-care after I've done some kind of writing. That may or may not work for you. But also, So that may not work for you, choosing a day. It's amazing if you can do that. So if you can't choose a day or reserve a day for writing, then what about a block of time a day or a few days a week? Or laundry time, right? We always multitask when we throw the clothes in the wash machine. You're doing something else. But what if you use your laundry time? Throw your clothes in the laundry, and then you write, and then you go and you put them in the dryer, and then you write again. But whatever, use whatever kind of trick of the trade that you can possibly use to get your writing time done. And you do want to choose a time when you're alert. Like I used to think, oh, let me get work done, let me go home. I mean, but going home is a second shift. I'm exhausted after that. So choose a time when you're really alert. That might mean waking up earlier in the mornings if you're not able to choose a block of time or a day, right? Don't limit yourself to a desk. If you're outdoorsy, write outside, like be creative. And I know when I was writing my novel, I had to write in the same place each day because when I got there, my mind knew it was time to write. So if you do need to limit yourself to somewhere, that's quite all right as well. But then there's some of you, like my husband, can't stay in one place. He works best if he moves around, changes location and scenery. It works for him. It may work for those of you. So don't limit yourself at any way. And then hold that space sacred. My writing time, I don't check email. I don't do certain things as I don't multitask because that time is sacred to me. Another thing that I've done that has worked really well that I want to share with you is join a writing group for accountability. Join a writing group for accountability. I have a writing group that I do every Thursday at 7 p.m. It's not my most alert time, but just being with folks who are also writing. And so we simply check in with a goal, like what we're going to do for that. I believe it's an hour that we set aside. We set a goal for that hour, say, hey, I'm going to write my introduction today, or today I'm going to begin my methodology section, or whatever it is, I'm going to write my abstract. Whatever it is, you set the goal, we write for an hour, and then we check in with the progress of that goal and set a goal for the next time. All right. So either join a writing group, many of them exist in Facebook groups. They're easy to find. There might be some at your university, or you can form a group if you have the time to do that. And then lastly, I just want to say, think more positively about your voice. Your voice does matter. I certainly want to encourage for those of you who are folks of color, we definitely need your voices in the literature because what is written in the literature trickles down to the way we practice. And if our voices aren't in the literature, if our clients' experiences, theoretical orientations aren't geared towards our clients, that affects the way we practice. We continue to promote a Eurocentric way of doing work with people of color. So your voice does matter. What you want to write about does matter. Your work does matter. So let's get it published. All righty. And lastly, I just want to say, hey, let's stay connected. If I've said anything in this particular talk that's raised more questions than it's given you answers, feel free to shoot me an email at lsummer@ju.edu or give me a call at 904-256-7558. I totally just made that sound like a commercial, did not intend for it to sound that way. But again, I want to thank you for the time you've spent with me today during this talk, and keep your pen to paper, and let's get our voices heard, and let's positively impact all the clients that we work with. Take care.